YouTube subbies, and maybe even I might share a little bit of this with my Instagram family. Welcome to Sergeant Dorsey Speaks Special Edition. Tonight I'm going to be to you about something near and dear to my heart, the Los Angeles Unified School District. I had shared with many of you earlier today. I'm on one. And so, I'm a little late getting to you because the gremlins were misbehaving, and for some reason I couldn't get my camera to work as I was signing on to go live on Facebook. So I'm glad that I got it worked out, and I'm glad that many of you are joining and coming into the room to be here with me tonight. Hey Barry, what's up, dude? You're in Dallas. Welcome. Glad you could come back. So I've got a lot to say about the Los Angeles Unified School District. And I haven't had an opportunity to revisit this because, there's other stuff going on. And I don't know if y'all really care about, what rubs me raw and what keeps me up at night. But tonight, I'm going to share it with you. Let me ask you this for those of you that are here. Can somebody just let me know about my volume? Because I've been doing some tweaking as I work between two different systems, Facebook and another system that I use for my videos on Instagram. And there were some issues with my microphone. I was told earlier today when I recorded my invite for all of you to Facebook Live that my volume was very low. Hey, Michael, what's up? So I'm just wanting, before I really get into the crux of all of this, to make sure that my volume is good. Hey, Olivia, you're on the train from LA going home to San Diego. Okay, cool. So put your earplugs on and I'll keep you company for the next hour or so. Hey, Mac, waiting to hear. Okay, Barry, cool. Volume is good, everything's good, and we're good to go. So let me say this, because in this current environment, I really do think this is very topical, because we are seeing right now in this current administration what happens to people who speak truthfully about things that are going on that don't seem quite right. We saw what happened to Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, um, Fiona Hill. I can't say her last name, but the lady that they call Masha, who spoke out. Everybody who testified during that whole asterisk debacle, during the whole hearing and all of that stuff. Everybody has lost their job. There's been a price to pay for those who spoke truthfully about things that they knew were wrong, right? We're taught and told to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And so I have known all along that when you take on a superpower like the LAPD, which I did many times, when you take on a superpower like the Los Angeles Unified School District, which I am currently doing, there's a price to pay. And so I'm cool with, whatever they want to throw at me, because, at the end of the day, my God is amazing. And so I'm trusting and believing that, this is all going to work out in my favor. And so to that end, because LAPD taught me well, and because I had gone through so much in my 20 years on the Los Angeles Police Department, and because I was a supervisor and had learned, what it is to be an administrator, and what it is to document and the like. Now, as I'm talking to you, it looks like I'm doing a Godzilla movie because my lips are moving and I hear the sound coming a little bit later. Let me know if at anything gets disjointed. Um, Yeah, Michael. Yeah, he's oh boy, the asterisk. He's throwing out get out of jail free cards for everybody. And so listen, I ain't mad at him. Some of y'all put him in office, and so if you bothered by what the asterisk is doing, you'll have an opportunity to do something about that on, I think, what it November 3rd. And if not, then we'll get 4 more years of this foolishness, and everybody better really, for real, hold on. So that's all I have to say about that. But with regards to whistleblowers and what happens, and another reason why I'm speaking on this is because, especially on my YouTube channel, I get folks from time to time who say, There's no such thing as a good cop if you don't report on the bad cops. And listen, it's not just police officers, because everybody on your job, you guys see something happening that shouldn't be happening, and do y'all run and tell? No, you don't. Because there's a price to pay. Okay, Michael, you said the sound is dropping. Okay, but can you hear me now, Michael? Can you hear me now? Because I just want to make sure. Something is really weird here, you guys. My camera seems to be bugging, and I don't know why. I'm looking as I'm talking to you, and it's there seems to be quite a bit of a delay. Are you guys getting a delay in terms of what it is that I'm saying? And I need to hear you respond back, and I'm not really getting any words, any text from you guys. So thumbs up, let me know that everything is working in terms of the audio and the visual and all of that. I don't want to be yammering on here if you guys can't hear me, or if there's a problem with the picture or anything else. So let me know, Michael, if you can, how it's looking and sounding right now before I get too far involved. If I need to, I'll jump out and then restart. Restart again. You know, it's interesting that tonight, because I was doing all that mess talking this morning about what I was going to come on here and say, and then oddly enough, tonight of all nights, my internet connection or Facebook or whatever. Okay, Mac, sounds good to you and there are no delays. Okay, so I'm gonna just start rambling and fussing. And if it changes, Mac, let me know. I'll be monitoring my comments. But what I was saying is that, you know, when you tell about wrongdoing, particularly with powerful people, and we're seeing that play out with the Harvey Weinstein situation, you know, women who were afraid to anger him because he was a powerful man, women who thought it was in their best interest to stay in good standing with him, if you will, even after allegations of inappropriate behavior. Because, you know, Hollywood is small, LAPD is small, and probably where you work is small. And if you have a supervisor, then, you know, they can come for you. And so, thanks, Christopher and Mallory. I got you. I'm good. Sounds good, and I'm going to keep going. And so that's kind of what's going on right now. And the reason that I'm speaking to you today about the Los Angeles Unified School District is because, well, they took me to court. And so I wasn't there actually physically. My attorney showed up on today. And what they're trying to do, I believe, is they are trying to silence me. And I just won't be quiet. And that's part and parcel as to why I got fired by the school district. And so let me just give you the Reader's Digest version. I had worked for the school district for about 9 years. Years after I retired from LAPD. When I first retired from LAPD, I was just a soccer mom, if you will, and doing all the things with my sons, my last two that I couldn't do with the first two because I was working crazy hours on LAPD. So I was just a mom doing that. And then I bumbled across this opportunity at LA Unified School District to go there and work as a senior investigator in the Office of the Inspector General. As a senior investigator in the OIG, my job was to investigate fraud, waste, and abuse occurring within the Los Angeles Unified School District. And ooh-wee, is there fraud, waste, and abuse going on at LAUSD? And let me just say that the majority of it occurred on the 12th floor, which is where the Office of the Inspector General is located, where I worked as a senior investigator. And so I had been there for about 9 years until this guy shows up, Frank Cabibi. He got hired as the Deputy Inspector General over investigations. And for whatever reason, he just did not like me. I think I know the reason he didn't like me, right? This. And so I peeped his hand immediately and I was like, okay, I got to keep, you know, a flashlight on old boy during the day, right? I need to keep an eye on him. And so I did. And because LAPD taught me well, as soon as I realized that, you know, things were funky, I immediately started doing what I tell you guys to do all the time, which is I started documenting what was occurring, not only to me, but what was occurring in the office, what was occurring with me and what was not occurring with my coworkers. In other words, I was being treated very differently. I was the only Black female in that office at the time. And so I just started paying particular attention to what was going on. And then, I started complaining to people within the school district because that's what you're supposed to do, right? You're supposed to go to the people, the places within an organization, HR, if you have one. For me, because I worked in the Office of the Inspector General, and it was supposed to be an independent arm of the school district, not really connected to the school district. The Inspector General reported to the Board of Education. 6 people are on the Board of Education. And so, because I was having issues with the Inspector General, I went to the superintendent first, Ramon Cortines, when he was still there. And Ramon Cortines understood exactly what I was bringing to him. And he put both fingers in his ear and he was like, la, 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 la. I don't want to hear nothing. I need you to go talk to Steve Zimmer, the president of the Board of Education, because the IG is a direct report to the Board of Education. Don't tell me nothing. Well, I had that conversation with Cortines in the presence of Michelle King, who was his deputy superintendent at the time. You know Michelle King, Black woman, first Black female superintendent. After Cortines left, they made her first female Black superintendent over the Los Angeles Unified School District. She was in the room when I had that conversation with Cortines, and she said to me, "Ooh, you did your homework." So Michelle King understood exactly who I was. She understood exactly what I had. And she too, because she's a deputy superintendent, couldn't do anything unless Ramon Cortines wanted to. So he sent me to Steve Zimmer. I went to Steve Zimmer. I met with him. I took a plethora of documentation with him because I had a lot of it. And Steve Zimmer said, "I'll get back to you." And he never did. But a month later, my boss, Frank Cabibi, called me into the office and he said, "Go home." And I was like, "Go home and do what?" And he said he was so mad at me for going to people within the school district and not being able to stop me. He said, "Go home." So they sent me home. He says, "I'll send you information about what to do next." So I got home and he sent me an email and said, "Stay home. Don't come back. Don't call nobody. We're investigating you." And I'm like, "Really? Investigating me for what? Because I've not done anything wrong." Well, what I now know is that Steve Zimmer and Frank Cabibi and the Inspector General Ken Bramlett had all gotten together along with folks in HR, and the Los Angeles Unified School District attorneys decided that they needed to figure out a way to fire me. So they came up with all these allegations of wrongdoing, and they accused me of misconduct. And they sent me home and they told me, "Don't come back." They said, "We're going to investigate. And when we're done with the investigation, we'll contact you." Well, when they were done with their investigation, they they didn't give me an opportunity to speak on the charges they leveled against me, due process. They just said, "You're guilty. You're guilty." And they accused me of theft of wages. They accused me of all sorts of stuff, leaving work early, being paid when I wasn't at work, promoting my book. That was a big thing that they accused me of doing, was promoting my book when I was on duty for the school district, which I knew better than to do. I'm not stupid. And I knew whenever I was on TV not to do it on district time. But nonetheless, they just accused me of all this stuff. And then they said, "We find you guilty." And then they said, "We want you to resign, promise never to come back. And if you do that, we'll pay you through the end of the fiscal year," which was 6 months. And I was like, "Why would I resign? I've not done anything wrong. You guys are not providing me an opportunity to even address the charges." And they said, "Whatever." So I started blogging, and I've written many, many blogs about what was going on during that time. This was 2016 when this was going on, beginning of 2016. And so what happened is they kept me at home, and then they brought more charges against me. And this time they said, "Well, we didn't fire you with the first set of charges, but the second set of charges, we're going to fire you. And if you don't stop writing about what we're doing to you, we're going to bring those charges, and we're going to bring them real quick." And so they did. They brought more charges against me, and then they sent me to an administrative hearing. Well, when they set up this administrative hearing, because they had charged me with so much stuff, I had an attorney, and I had been gathering information from 2014 to 2016 because I figured, remember, I had already peeped Frank Cabibi's hand. And oh, hey, Frank, and anybody else from the LAUSD who's listening, hello, because I know that they monitor me. And that's part and parcel as to why they took me to court today, because they monitor my social media. And so, anyway, they sent me to this administrative hearing, and my attorney contacted them and said, we need more time to prepare because we have a big defense we're going to put forward. Well, they said, no, the hearing is in a week. Had sent me the charges, all of the documentation. It's called a skelly. They were supposed to send me the information for which they were charging so that I could look at it and know how to address it. Well, I only had a week to this hearing. But they said, we're going to have the hearing whether you're there or not. So I hope you're there. And of course, I went with my attorney. And by the way, the hearing officer, yeah, she's only going to be there for 2 hours because she's got somewhere to go, is what they told me. Again, my attorney protested and said, wait a minute, this is not fair. We should be able to take as much time as we need to address these charges. And they said, you got 2 hours, and she's leaving. And so sure enough, Vivian Ekchian was my hearing officer. Now, I don't know if any of you know that name. Vivian Ekchian was the deputy superintendent at LA Unified School District at the time. She is now the first female Armenian superintendent over in Glendale. Because see, I believe when you are willing to screw people over, you get rewarded mightily. And so now Vivian Ekchian is the superintendent in Glendale. So she shows up for my hearing, and true to form, 2 hours into my hearing, she said, hey, I got a graduation to go to. And I'm leaving. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. This is my life. I need to be able to take as much time as I can to address you. We have a lot of information to share with you, to talk about. And she says, just give it to me. Give me what you got. I'll read it later. I don't have time. I got a graduation. And I'm leaving. And she did. And then about a week later, I got a letter from the school district saying that Vivian Ekchian agreed with Frank Cabibi, Ken Bramlett, and she was recommending my termination to the Board of Education. Steve Zimmer, the guy that I went to earlier and said, hey, Steve, they're harassing me, they're retaliating against me, and I need you to help me. I need you to investigate what I think is malfeasance being committed by the Inspector General, Kenneth Bramlett. And he said, I'll get back to you, only he never did. And so then Vivian recommended that I be fired, and they did. And that's when the litigation started. That was in June of 2016. So I've been waiting patiently to go to court over this wrongful termination. And now they know, like I know through discovery, because I've had to share information with them about what I have to support my innocence. They had to share with me what they trumped up to get me fired in the first place. And so I have 10,000 documents that were given to me and my attorney, and we went through every single one, LAUSD, and we found a lot of information about what was going on behind the scenes and how they were celebrating my pending termination and blah, blah, blah. So we started having depositions where we put them under oath and talked to them about things that I knew was going to be problematic if we ever went to court, because they were going to have to lie under oath, or they were going to have to tell the truth that they did not provide me due process, that they manufactured misconduct, and they had no evidence to support the findings. So that's the thrust of the court case today, because we're supposed to go to trial in August. But in the meantime, I've been talking about my book, Black and Blue, The Creation Whistleblower. And I wrote this book about everything that the school district did to me. And in this book, I name folks that I'm naming on here right now. I talk in great detail about what was done to me, what I was doing to document, and I show in my book evidence of the things that I'll be talking about in court. And that's why I haven't been able to publish my book, even though it's written. It's sitting on the shelf right now, waiting to be made public, because I don't want the attorneys that are representing the school district to read my book before we go to trial. But what I do talk about in my book is that in addition to everything else that's in here, I also have a little QR code, and I'm going to kind of cover it up a little bit. But I have a little QR code in here in my book, and they know this because they took me to court today so that I can't put this in my book. What happens with this QR code is that it will take you to a place where you can read the depositions from everybody who railroaded me. You can read what they had to say under oath in their deposition. And the reason that that's a big deal is because when you see what they did to me under oath, when they have to admit that, yeah, we didn't give you due process. Yeah, we accused you of misconduct and we never interviewed you. We never gave you an opportunity to address it. If the public has the ability to read their depositions according to the attorneys that represent the school district, they said it could be embarrassing. And so my thing is this: if you stand by your story of why you fired me, if you're strong in your conviction about why you fired me, how is it then embarrassing if somebody sees what you had to say? Except for you lied. But when you got under oath, you told the truth. And so now they're trying to keep me from making this public, depositions. Even if I don't make the depositions public, and it's kind of a not such a big deal, but it just rubs me raw that they're trying to silence me. But I don't really need to make the depositions public, LAUSD, because I'm going to continue to talk about it. And I was in the room when everything that was said in the depositions was said because I wanted to be there. I wanted to be present during my deposition so I could look them in the eye, so I could tell my attorney when I heard bullshit, so I could decipher LAUSD code talk and tell my attorney what to ask next to make sure that we got the right information on record, to hold them to the fire when they said something that wasn't true, to question them. All of that happened during the deposition. And so I'm going to continue to talk about it. And now, LAUSD, if you really are embarrassed, if Frank Cabibi is embarrassed by what he said in the deposition, if Kenneth Bramlett, the current Inspector General over in Albuquerque, New Mexico, who seems to have a different level of expertise that they require their Inspector Generals, if all of them are embarrassed by what he said, if they're embarrassed to let people know that they screwed me, what does that say about the whole system? And so as I talk about this with you guys, and I might be subject hopping, but as I talk about this, I'm going to just share a link or two with you because I want you to know that, I'm not just pulling this stuff out of my nether regions. I want you to know how inept the Inspector General was. And that is what I was telling Cortinas, that you have an Inspector General who might be involved in some criminality, sir. And you might want to have somebody investigate what's going on the 12th floor, sir. But instead of investigating what I was telling him could be criminal activity, they sent me home, told me don't come back, don't talk to nobody, and then they fired me because they didn't think I would be able to get an attorney that would represent me and fight them for the wrongful termination, for retaliating against me, for bringing forward possible misconduct by the Inspector General. So I'm just sharing with you right now a couple of links so that you can see that there's someone else out there, a reporter by the name of Kyle Stokes, who has also written extensively about how screwed up that office was under Kenneth Bramlett and Frank Cabibi. And so it's not just me. And we know that it's not just me because after I was fired, guess what? Two white girls who worked in my office came forward and they said that Frank had been sexually harassing them. Now, I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what they said. And so when the two white girls came forward and accused Frank Cabibi of harassing them, well, then, Kenneth Bramlett had to do something because these are good white women and we can't have the good white women being harassed by Frank. So they had sat down and had a fireside chat with Frank, and they told him that we're going to have to fire you if you don't resign. And so Frank Cabibi was forced into resignation for doing some of the same things to these two white women that I said he had been doing to me. But when he was doing it to me, everybody was saying that I was the problem, that I was making it up, and that he was a great guy, and that, Nobody understood, why I had this chip on my shoulder. Well, now we know that Frank Cabibi is Frank Cabibi. And so he had to leave LAUSD. And after Frank was forced out, then Inspector General's contract was not renewed. Why? Because he had all this mess going on in our office. And that's what these links represent that I just shared with you. It represents the school board's position on Frank and Ken Bramlett in 2016 and 2017. So fast forward to last year or 2018, I forget what happened, or when it happened exactly. But what I do know is that, because white folks get stuff that we just can't get, right? They're afforded opportunities that we don't get as people of color, black or brown, when you lose your job. And so Frank Cabibi went, after being forced to resign in lieu of termination, he went from being a inspector general at the inspector general, he went over to Amtrak. How do I know that, Frank? Well, I know you said I'm not a good investigator, but I'm a little bit better than you think, sir. So Frank Cabibi got a job over at Amtrak, where he was, guess what? A senior investigator. Now, you would think that would have been a red flag to Amtrak, because why would he go from being a deputy inspector general at the Los Angeles Unified School District to wanting to be a senior investigator at Amtrak? It just doesn't make sense, right? But when you have that privilege, you have that privilege. And so they hired him. And then a short time later, they fired him. Now, Frank, I don't know why they fired you, dude. I don't know if you lied on your application and you forgot to tell them that you had to leave LAUSD because you were accused of sexually harassing folks. I don't know if they found out that, you had been engaged in litigation, the subject of a lawsuit for discrimination and retaliation, Frank. I don't know if that's why Amtrak fired you. And so maybe this whole thing about, them not wanting to make the depositions public, not wanting me to make the depositions public, is because maybe Frank is having a hard time getting a job. I don't know. Maybe Ken Bramlett is, being looked at with a side eye over at Albuquerque, New Mexico. Maybe they realize that they should have done a better job in their background search before they hired him over there. Or maybe he's just over there effing up because that's who he is, and he was inept here, so he can't go somewhere else as an inspector general and all of a sudden do everything the way it should be done, because it's just apparently not in him, right? So they want to silence me and they want to keep me quiet, and I'm not going to be quiet about it. And whoever it is over at the LAUSD who's snooping around and monitoring what it is that I do and reporting it back to the attorneys, I hope you watch this tonight and are able to report back what you've heard here, so that you understand in my Bernie Mac voice, I ain't scared of you, mother effers. I ain't scared of you. And I'm not going to be quiet, and I'm going to continue to talk. And I'm glad that I have a platform. And Jorge Urquijo, my supervisor, Jorge, I tried to warn you. Dude, that I was a supervisor just like you, and that I understood the importance of documentation and making notes and making copies. And Jorge, remember all those days when you used to just sit at your desk and watch me make copies of stuff and you never questioned me? It's because I was preparing for this lawsuit, Jorge. You should have asked me some questions, dude, but you didn't. I tried to warn you. And so, family, I share this with you because I know that I'm not the only one. I know that there is someone out there right now who's going through grief at work. And I want you to know, I want to encourage you to be strong in the fight. I want you to know that this is a marathon, it's not a sprint. I want you to understand the importance of documentation and gathering information. And I shared some of that in the earlier invite tonight. I shared with you pictures, because that's what I do. I take pictures. And I took pictures of them during their deposition. I took pictures of them at work when they were messing me over. I took pictures of them at work when they were allowing the others in the office that didn't look like me to do. And I made copies of every investigation that I handled, LAUSD. I made copies, and you know that. And I also made copies of every investigation that every other investigator should have been handling but didn't. And so I have a plethora of stuff. But then you already know that because I've shared it with you in discreet. But what I want you to really be clear about, LAUSD, is that I'm not going to be quiet and I'm not going to go away. And even though you've continued my court case 3 times, this is the 3rd continuance. At some point, I will be heard. And if you think that me publishing depositions is going to be embarrassing to Frank Cabibi, Kenneth Bramlett, and Jorge Urquijo, and maybe even Vivian Ekchian, and Melinda LeDuff Menifee, and Cira Zamora, and George McKenna, if you think that their depositions are embarrassing and an annoyance, you have no idea how embarrassing I will be to the Los Angeles Unified School District and those that I just named when I get my black ass, if I could say it like that, on that stand. Because when I do that, I'm going to be just like what John Bolton said, I'll be a hand grenade. I'll be a hand grenade. And I'm bringing receipts. And so this is kind of the first one right here, me going public on Facebook, and eventually this is going to be on my other social media platforms, but you guys already know LAUSD because you're following me and you're monitoring me. But I'm not going to be quiet. And at some point, you're going to have to deal with me. Now, LAUSD and family, if you're really, really embarrassed by what I'm going to say and what I'm going to show LAUSD, there's me. Talk to my attorney. You know his name. You know his number. Conversation if you really, really are embarrassed by what I'm going to put forth. So I wanted to put that out there. I wanted to share it, and I wanted you guys to not only hear it because I wanted to share it with you, but I also wanted you to, find strength and comfort in speaking your truth, whatever it is, whatever you're going through, who's ever's messing with you. I hope that you will feel strong enough to speak on it, to not let them, because they're a large bureaucracy, a superpower, as I call it. Don't be intimidated by a large organization to the point where you let them just get away with treating you any kind of way. And so for those of you who wonder about the good cops and, good investigators and good hospital workers and good teachers, they're out there, they exist. And I'm one of them. And I've always been very outspoken. I was thinking about this as I was talking to myself about what I was going to share with you. And so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. It's in my autobiography. And so, yes, here's a shameless plug. I talk about, my trials and tribulations on LAPD. And listen, it started from day one when I was in the police. And I spoke out about things that were done to me that I didn't like. I spoke about officers who I thought were engaging in what was inappropriate behavior, usually mostly to me. But I spoke out about it, and it cost me. I had a training officer put me in a pain compliance hole when I was on probation. I had a supervisor tell other officers while I was on probation, because I was the only Black female in Southwest Division in 1982. And I had a supervisor, Stanley Schott, who pretended like he wanted me to come and work out in the weight room. And then when he made me come work out in the weight room, because he's my sergeant and I had to, I felt, go do it because he's powerful. He's an authority, right? He had me up there in the men's locker room working out. And then he went and said disparaging, sexually charged comments to my coworkers. And I told, and it cost me. Stanley Schott wound up being transferred administratively out of the division. That was unheard of for a probationer, a Black woman, a little Black girl, to get a sergeant of police administratively transferred. That didn't happen. There was backlash. When I reported my training officer who grabbed me and put me in a pain compliance hole, he wound up being suspended for 5 days as a probationary officer. You don't do that. It cost me. I wound up getting a jacket. I wound up having officers, some, not all, but having officers talk about me in ways that were disparaging. And that's where I got that thin skin. I had to turtle up. I talk about all of that in my autobiography. And again, I do it because what I went through on LAPD is not unique to LAPD. That kind of foolishness happens on every job. You got bullies, you got people who treat you poorly. I had officers, partners. I talk about it in my book. I would sit down in the police car at the start of watch, and I would not have my partner say one word to me for 8.5 hours, or 8 hours and 45 minutes, because we had 45-minute lunch. I'd have to sit next to a white officer who wouldn't talk to me for 8 hours and 45 minutes every day. So I'm a fighter. I'm accustomed to standing up for myself. And so I'm going to stand up for myself, not only against, I have stood up for myself, not only against LAPD, but I continue to do that. And now I understand all the foolishness that I went through on LAPD was preparing me for LAUSD. Because when they came for me on LAUSD, I was like, dude, really? Is this what we doing? Okay, then let's do it. And that's why you see me sharing pictures. And I mean, I've got other things that I won't even share, but I do have a lot of stuff from LAUSD that's in my book, and they know that it exists because they hear me talking to you about it. They haven't seen it, but they know it exists. They also probably, like I've said to some of you, gone to my website, sergeantcheryldorsey.com, and read the first chapter of the creation of a whistleblower. You could read the first chapter of this book on my website, www.sgtcheryldorsey.com. And in that first chapter, you will see the names of every single person who came for me, because I named them. I named them and I named their title at the time. Now, some of the people that I talked about are no longer at the school district because it's been 5 years. Michelle King, the deputy superintendent who was working under Ramon Cortinas when I first went to him and told him malfeasance and possible criminality is occurring. Michelle King was the deputy superintendent, and then they promoted her to superintendent. And I sent her an email and I said, hey, Michelle, sister girl, what's up? You remember we talked a couple of months ago. I'm asking you, I'm begging you to stop the retaliation, investigate what I'm telling you, because if they really thought that what I said had no merit, all they had to do was investigate it and say, look, we already investigated this. She's full of shit. We didn't find any of that. But guess what? They didn't investigate it. And so Michelle King had one of her attorneys send me an email, which I kept and I have, and the email is in my book. And through her attorney at the LA Unified School District, Michelle King said to me, we are aware of your concerns. Michelle King is working on a resolution. Do not contact her anymore. Could you imagine? The superintendent of the Los Angeles School District is not interested in the Inspector General possibly involved in malfeasance and criminality. Michelle King was not interested in the fact that there was a white man retaliating, discriminating against one of her senior investigators. Michelle King told me, don't contact her no more. She's working on a resolution. And you know what her resolution was? My termination. Well, Michelle King's no longer with us. So I don't want to speak ill of the dead. She passed away about 1.5 years ago of cancer. So there's that. Frank Cabibi, forced to resign in lieu of termination. He's gone. Kenneth Bramlett's contract not renewed. The shenanigans that was going on in that office because of all the things that I talked about. Jorge Urquijo finally just decided to leave because now all of a sudden he's mad at Frank Cabibi and he wants to sue him as well for age discrimination or something, but he didn't have a problem screwing me over at Frank's behest. So all of them that did me wrong are all gone. They're all gone, but thankfully I have their depositions. If they don't want to make themselves available for court in August, that's fine. We'll read their depositions. I'm hopeful that you'll be able to read their deposition. But if for some reason the judge decides that this protective order that they have requested has merit and from sharing the depositions in totality, I'll find another way to let you know what's going on, because what I'm not going to do is let the LA Unified School District operate in a vacuum. I said this earlier, if you guys are going to fuck me, then you're going to do it in Pershing Square. That's downtown LA, family. You're going to do it in the open. You're going to do it in the open, and everybody's going to watch you. And then, if a jury of my peers decides that, they enjoyed watching and I don't really have a case, then we'll see what happens. But I think given the environment that we're in right now, this whole Me Too, what powerful people do to little people, and listen, I'm just little old Cheryl. I'm just one person going up against the second largest school district in the nation. In the nation. So we'll see what a jury of my peers has to say about all of that. And, you know, if you really want me to go away, I just need a mansion and a yacht. Talk to my attorney. So that's what I wanted to share with you. That's what kept me up last night, only because I just wanted to mess with them. Because I say when you F with the bull, you get the horn. So today I'm giving them a little horn, just a little, just a tip. Just the tip, right? You understand what I mean, right? Yeah, next time, we'll put it all the way in next time. I just wanted you guys to know what was going on. I wanted to be encouraging to anybody else who's dealing with issues in the workplace. If you have questions, if you have a situation and I feel like I can trust you, email me, sgtdorseyspeaks@gmail.com, and I'll try to give you my best advice in terms of what you might need to do in your situation. I have a really, really good attorney who I trust emphatically, who I have on occasion sent folks to, if not to seek his counsel, to ask a question or two. I want to be a resource for anyone who's having issues. I want to advocate for anyone who is not sure about what to do and what steps to take. And I want you to know it's been 5 years. It's been 5 years. And I'm not guaranteed that on August 3rd, 2020, I think that's my court date. I'm not guaranteed that we're going to go to court in August. But whenever we go to court, LAUSD, I'm ready. I'm ready. And I'll just say this as I close out, because I started doing this when I was blogging about them. And so if any hurt, harm, or danger befalls me because of all of what I talk about, because of the folks that I name, powerful people in powerful places, superintendent of the second largest school district in the nation, deputy superintendent, current superintendent over in Glendale Unified School District, former Inspector General Kenneth Bramlett, current Inspector General in Albuquerque, New Mexico, former Deputy Inspector General Kenneth Frank Cabibi, currently, I think, unemployed. If any hurt, harm, or danger befalls me because of all of what I say, what I will continue to say, family, please stand with my family, my sons. I keep them abreast of what's going on with me, but they're, millennials. And so I need all of you to know that the investigation should start on the steps of the Beaudry building at 333 South Los Angeles Street, and then move on up to the 12th floor where the Office of the Inspector General is located. 24th floor where the superintendent of the school district is located. Because the only thing that's going to quiet me and keep me from moving forward would be me not being here. And so my driving record is impeccable. I've not wrapped my car around a tree ever. And if something like that should happen now, question it. I'm saying. So unless some of you have something that you want to ask me real quick in the questions, I'm assuming that while I've been ranting and raving, my connection has been good and that you guys have been able to hear me, and my picture wasn't all pixelated, because I just feel like there's something afloat in the background that's trying to prevent this from being said. What's going on right now, as far as I can see with the delay in my picture, is something very new. So I'm hoping that everything is good. Denise, thank you. I appreciate you. You went through the same thing on your job. Yeah, listen, if you've never, if you've never been through it, family, it's a lot. It's a lot, and it's stressful. Just gathering documentation and trying to keep it straight and keep it at home is what you do. Certainly don't be gathering information and documents about your employer and keep it at work anywhere. You have to take that stuff home every day. But that in and of itself is stressful. And so, they messed with me mightily at the school district when they were hoping, I believe, Frank thought he was gonna. I guess he thought I was gonna ball up and run down the hall crying, and he was gonna make me go away because the stuff that they were doing was just bananas, bananas. I talk about it in my book. I won't talk about it here, but it was really stupid. And so every time he did something that made no sense, I called him out on it. And because he didn't understand who I was, eventually he learned, and that's why he finally just said, go home. But the problem with him sending me home is that I had already for a year and a half, for an entire year and a half, I'm not kidding you, family, I would come to work at 6 o'clock. And between 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock every morning, I spent the first 2 hours, I was dedicated, committed to doing nothing but documenting, making copies of everything that I thought I was going to need. And the reason that I did that for 2 hours every morning, in case you're wondering how come I wouldn't work, is because what they were doing to me is they would take my laptop. So the district had issued me a laptop, but Jorge Urquijo, when I would come to work, he had taken my laptop off my desk. And so I didn't have a laptop. I didn't have work to do. And Jorge knew that I didn't have my laptop because he took it. So since he took it, I just let him keep it for however long he kept it. And eventually during the day, he would bring it back and he'd ask me stupid stuff like, hey, how's it going? And I'm like, fine. He's like, how, are your investigations okay? Investigations are fine. And I'm like, what are you asking? Laptop, so I can't do my investigations, but I guess if you want me to work, you'll give it back to me. And so we played this cat and mouse game every day, sometimes 3 or 4 times a week. Again, I documented all of that. And there was a total of 70 days between December 2015 and June 2015 to December 2015. 70 work days, I wouldn't have a computer because Jorge came and took it, and he was trying to get me to come and ask him to give it back, which I wouldn't because I just wouldn't. He knew he had it. So on the days when he had my laptop computer, I was compiling stuff that wound up going in a suitcase. I had an entire suitcase of documents, took pictures. Sometimes I recorded conversations because how else can I prove that they're messing with me unless I record the conversations? So they didn't play fair, and neither did I. But I say all that to say, if you're going through it, if you've been through it, if it's coming up and you don't know when you get there, document, make copies, keep a journal, write down temperature outside on the day a thing happens to you. If you notice that you're being treated in a way that is disparate from your coworkers, write that down. Document who's present. Create a paper trail. Email supervisors. Email the people above them, which is what I did. I emailed everybody, so nobody could ever say that they know what was going on, what was being done to me. Every member of education, 6 of them, the superintendent, and then people outside Los Angeles Unified School District. I would email everybody about what was happening every day. And that's why they finally said, go home, don't come back, don't contact anybody in this office. But it was too late. The damage was done. I had all the documentation that I need. So that's how you do it. It's a marathon. Not even sure, if I'm even, at mile 12. But I'm staying hydrated. And I'm in it to win it. I'm here for the long haul. So I just wanted to share that with you. And I appreciate you guys just kind of listening and letting me rant about this. And for those of you who are going to listen to this at a later time, again, if you have questions, if you have issues, if you're going something similar, if you have a family member who's dealing with workplace issues around discrimination and retaliation, reach out to me, sgtdorseyspeaks@gmail.com. And I will, what I think is course of action. So that's it, family. I will see you, Ron. I will stay to talk police stuff to get my system tonight. He has not heard from a court in terms of their decision about this. It's against, I believe, is that my hope will be to go. There's information in the distance from the people who I pre-named. That's all public domain because the litigation, the lawsuit itself is public. And so if you bring up certain documents that we have filed over the last 5 years, there's information, if you know how to do a FOIA or whatever, there's information that's available. So it's kind of a moot issue that they don't want me to have it in my book. It's something about this doggone book that has got them and their panties in a bunch. So anyway, that's it, family. I appreciate you. And Marie, thanks for that, sis. I appreciate you. Okay, see you see you Thursday. And if you haven't already subscribed to Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey on Instagram, I got a lot of good over there with regards to police abuse, police brutality. Yeah. Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey on Instagram. Subscribe over there. And then make sure you are following YouTube, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks, and my podcast, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks, wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. Family, be good, be safe.